What is up, everybody? It is Friday night episode of Shooting the Shit Uncensored, baby. That's right. The kids are in bed. It's time to pour yourself a nice cold drink, pour yourself a stiff one, roll yourself a green one, whatever it is that you like to do. Kick back and relax. It is me, baby. The bald, the beard, the beautiful Piers Austin. And tonight we, as always, you by the MWA podcast. Guys, tonight I have a very special guest, Mr. Tyson Baxter, who will be joining me in just a moment. But before I bring out my guest, I just want to take a quick pause, just to thank some sponsors. First up is A-Rock Designs. Now, A-Rock Designs is that company you always hear me raving about. They're in all the wrestling Facebook groups, wrestling pages, Instagram wrestling pages. They make custom cups, tumblers. They made me this custom CM Punk tumbler, which I absolutely love because I'm a huge Punk fan. And this cup is massive, dude. Like, it keeps my cold drinks cold, my hot drinks hot. Make sure you head over to A-Rock Designs on Facebook. Check out arockdesigns.com. Hit up Ashley. She makes an incredible product for an incredible price and ships out of Georgia in the United States to anywhere in the world. So you can get your hands on one of these bad boys, no matter whether you're in Australia, England, China, Japan, wherever. You can get one of these bad boys on any design that you like. And not just wrestlers as well. So make sure to check Ashley Rodriguez from A-Rock Designs out. Great price for a great product. Next up is Signal Studios. So Signal Studios is that recording studio here in Sydney, Australia, ladies and gentlemen. Look, if you're an independent professional wrestler and you need some new entrance music, something hip, something fly, something dope, something woke, whatever the cool, and sort of give me the 411 on these, but Signal Studios can hook you guys up. If you want to get your hands on a new track, they work with amazing artists such as the Cicadas Band that provide the entrance music to not just my show, but also every other show on the MWA podcast network. Signal Studios is where it's at. Or if you're a musician and you need a place to rehearse, a place to jam, a place to write, a place to get your creative juices flowing, you will not find a more comfortable rehearsal space than Signal Studios. So make sure you check those guys out. But guys, ladies and gentlemen, I can see there's a few people in the chat already tonight. Kyle's here. He's always first. But without further ado, I'm going to bring him out, Mr. Tyson Baxter. Tyson, thank you so much for joining me tonight, man.
Thank you for having me, Piers. Pleasure to be on.
Is really on fire, dude. From everything that I've seen, you guys are doing a lot of really cool stuff, especially with DeathMatch Down Under being pretty much the new promotion in Melbourne and really has hit the ground running.
Oh, absolutely. DeathMatch Down Under has come into this with an absolute house of fire in Melbourne. One of the first companies to start back up after COVID bit us in the butt. And they've taken the ball and they've absolutely just rolled with it. I'm loving to see what they're doing. They're getting all these big names over in Melbourne. And I think, honestly, the sky's the limit for this place.
Yeah, and you know what? I think as well, it's offering something different than what's currently out there in the Australian scene by adding that extra, deathmatch element of matches. Because until I saw of DeathMatch Down Under, I didn't think that there was any death matches happening in Australia. And like now to see that it's like adding that extra element of professional wrestling, that genre to the Australian thing, it's going to make the Aussie scene so stronger.
Oh, absolutely. Death matches were a very hot commodity for such a long time in Australian wrestling. It's about like bringing them back into the fold and showing that it is an art in itself as well. A lot of people can be very anti-deathmatch. I'm not too big on them myself, but it's like comparing apples and oranges, really. Sometimes it's your cup of tea, sometimes you're not. But it's good to see that there's an alternative that is getting brought in. So the good thing about that kind of style of deathmatch Down Under is that it's always like catering to different markets, to different fans. So it's a whole giant palette to pretty much appease everybody. And I think it works very well as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, it's to have like a mix of different genres of style of wrestling on the card it's like the wrestling smorgasbord. Like there's a little bit of area fan that, you know, it comes for one element, sees another, and becomes a fan of that, and a snowball effect goes on. But man, like, how long have you been wrestling for? Like, when did you get started in this world?
Well, I've been wrestling coming up on 5 years now. So I started training at the start of 2016 with George Julio here in Melbourne. And I've loved every bit of the last 5 years as well. Just something I've always been passionate about ever since I was about 10 years old. Didn't realise that wrestling was a thing in Australia until about 2012, 2013, when I saw an MCW show for the first time. And I'm like, this is what I want to do. Like, even though I was like right at the end of high school, I'm like, I still want to try to do this. Didn't really see much of else after that for the next like 3 or 4 years. Then I found out there's a training school. One of my wrestling mates, Aiden Miller, who was pretty much my best friend growing up. He's the reason that I was in love with wrestling in the first place. He introduced me to his trainer, George Julio, at a show that he was working. And I decided to, because I was playing footy at the time. I've been playing footy for the 10 years previous to that. Started to fall out of the passion for that. And then I'm just like, you know what? Why not? I'm just going to go give wrestling a try. Ended up going on a session like 2 days after he introduced me to his trainer. And I have not looked back since.
Yeah, well, I mean, dude, that's, you know, a sort of an amazing sort of story into it. Like the fact that, you know, you've just gone straight in head first and dove into it. But like, was it a surprise to like your family and everyone when you said, "Hey, I'm going to go give this a go. I'm going to start, you know, learning how to become a professional wrestler"? Was it anyone surprised, or was it like, no, this is like, we could see this was coming from a while away?
My parents are both very aware that I was a massive wrestling fan as a kid, even to the point where I accidentally dropped my sister on her head and gave her a concussion, sent her to hospital.
Oh shit!
Yeah, that was
how old were you?
Experience. I think I might have been 11 at the time.
And how old was she?
She was 9, I think. So yeah,
wow.
not the best impression to try to make a statement with, "Hey, this is what I want to do as a career." Dropping her on a damn head. Still lives to tell the tale though, so it's all right. Mum was a firm believer of do what makes you happy, regardless if it was footy or wrestling, so long as, ironically enough, nobody's getting hurt. But now pretty much what I do for a living is get hurt. So, but she's just happy that I'm following something that I've been so passionate about for so long. Dad, on the other hand, was not so much. All of his eggs were in my footy basket, so to speak. He played when he was a kid, and he wanted me to just pretty much continue the quote-unquote family tradition. And I will admit he was a little bit disheartened when he found out that not only was I not wanting to play footy anymore, but he was even more disheartened when he found out that I wanted to do wrestling. He isn't exactly the biggest fan of wrestling. I can count on, I've had over 100 matches, and I can count on one hand the amount of times that my dad's come and see me.
Really?
So it was a little bit disheartening to say that he wasn't too happy with me in wrestling. But at the end of the day, he was like, "Look, you can, so long as you take care of yourself, you can do what makes you happy, even if you're not playing footy or not. Just make sure you enjoy life, essentially." So my parents, even though they don't usually tend to show it directly, they are two of my biggest supporters in whatever I do. And that just happens to be wrestling.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, you mentioned your dad, you know, coming to only few and far between, but is he been like interested in what you've been doing, like as far as like career wise, and you know, the matches that you've had? Like, does he engage with you on that level, or is he just like just not his thing?
It's never been his thing, and I don't think it ever will. I'm not going to try to force any kind of change upon him as well. If he does end up
100%.
coming to some of my shows, then absolutely, so be it. Always good to see what I've put a lot of hard work into and pretty much show him the final product. But yeah, I don't think there's any convincing him that wrestling's the thing anytime soon. Even with the couple of injuries that I've had in recent time, he actually said to me, "Oh, maybe it's time to reconsider what you're doing." And I'm like, fuck that.
I mean, yeah, you mentioned the injuries though. Like, have they been severe injuries where you've had to take like large amounts of time off?
Yeah, the start of 2019. What I first thought was just like a jar of a knee, awkward landing in a match. Ended up rupturing my ACL, so that was a massive roadblock in the career path. Ended up taking, I think it was about a year off in total, including surgery and recovery time. Usually takes about a year, like 12 months exactly, to recover from an injury like that. But I was cleared in 7 months, which is that's just how much I wanted it. I just wanted to get back to doing this kind of
rehabbing hard and just trying to get it. Yeah, just trying to get it back to 100%.
There wasn't even that much of. Sorry, Piers.
No, go on, please.
It wasn't exactly a case of rehabbing harder than usual. It was just I just did the rehab, and the results ended up proving themselves. There wasn't anything extra that I did. I just got told to do something. I'm like, all right, if I want to get back to wrestling, I have to do it.
Yeah. And I think like it's, once you got back in there, was there ever like, moments of fear, like of re-injury, or was it just always just like 100% head first, like no second thought about it?
Oh, there's always going to be the fear of re-injury as well, especially with something as serious as that. Like, I don't think my knee will ever feel the same again, even to this day. So it's just a matter of being precautious and taking care of it, not doing anything too stupid or out of my comfort zone. But at the same time, I don't want to let that scare me into not being able to like reach any kind of potential. So it's just a matter of riding the bumps and taking it as it comes.
So once you started training, like, did you have preconceived ideas of what the business would be? And then when you got into the business, like, it was just, wow, this is not exactly what I expected. This was completely different.
Yeah, I had absolutely no idea what I was getting myself into. I didn't even know what the training was going to be like, what like show day or any kind of like even local wrestling shows to an extent, because all I saw at that time was WWE and a little bit of like ROH and TNA. So like I'd obviously seen that on like the grand scale watching it myself, but I never knew what the kind of like the behind the scenes or the backstage were like. Definitely didn't realize how much like, because everyone talks about like wrestling politics, but I didn't realize how much there actually are until you experience it firsthand. And like, I'm not a very political person as well, so I just kind of like keep my head down, do my own thing. But it's definitely eye-opening to see how much the people don't know about wrestling.
Yeah, 100%. And it's like, I think once you have been in that bubble, you really sort of see, it's almost like the mafia. It's like, you might think you know about the mafia, but till you actually open those doors and you're actually inside it, you know what I mean? Then you truly know exactly what it's about. And, that's why someone like myself, I've never claimed that I know absolutely everything about wrestling. But there's like I said, that sort of stuff I would never know because I'm not in the business, because, being at the backstage of the shows, etc. So, but did you find, when you were coming in and you were seeing the politics, what people were trying to sabotage? Were they trying to sabotage you, or were they just trying to sabotage other people?
I didn't really see any form of sabotage in like any way, whether it was towards me or towards someone else as well. Luckily enough, so far, every locker room that I've been part of has been great. There hasn't been any kind of like politics or backstabbing or anything like that. It's just everyone has a common goal in mind to try to put on as good of a wrestling show as they can, and just to try to better themselves as individuals, like as wrestlers. And it's a good culture to be around as well. If there are any kind of negative politics, I've never experienced it.
And that's what it seems to be like in the Australian wrestling scene. Like, I've spoken to quite a lot of the PWA roster, and obviously the DMDU roster as well. And, there's a lot to really see that everyone wants to build each other up, as opposed to, the preconceived idea of as you mentioned before, wrestling politics, the throat cutters and stuff like that, where people here are trying to, let's put on the best product possible. Let's build everyone up so we can have better matches, we can put on better shows, and just keep on improving. And that to me is like, it's a refreshing thing to hear.
Absolutely. And on a larger, like a grander scale as well, it's pretty much a case of, because Australia is not really a big fish when it comes to the wrestling world, seeing any kind of success overseas on a grander scale from fellow Australians, it feels like if they succeed, then we as a country succeed as well. Showing that they're like, before, like up until like Nathan Jones, there wasn't really anyone in Australia to really represent the country on a grander like picture. And seeing this influx of wrestlers from Australia, like your Buddy Murphys, Indy Hartwell, Bronson Reed, etc., these kind of people are kind of paving the way for people in this country. And it's like, this is achievable. Like, everyone thought that it was a very far-fetched dream, like not even like 5-10 years ago. And all of a sudden, anyone in Australia can pretty much make it. So it goes to show that the testament of hard work for people that are putting in this country to try to make Australian wrestling a thing and put them on the map, that it's all not for nothing. Like, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And if you push yourself hard enough, you can get there too.
Oh, absolutely. And, you know, Buddy Murphy, when he, you know, in Melbourne, when he won the cruiserweight title, he got the biggest pop of the night, you know. And I think, as Australians, and I think Australian sports fans, like, and I think wrestling fans have that same sort of passion as a sports fan does as well, is, you know, they're passionate about where, like, someone comes from. So when you see someone like Indy Hartwell recently winning, you know, and a NXT title, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, you feel that excitement for her as well, because Australia's backing it, because we haven't seen, you know, large amounts of people going over there. But now we're starting to see that influx and seeing them get success and get championship opportunities in good spots on the cards as well. So.
Yeah, and just seeing that it's not exactly like these big companies saying like, oh, you're Australian, you'll fit in X, Y, Z, this kind of stuff here. Especially like, just like you mentioned the other day with Indy winning the sorry.
No, right.
Just with Indy winning the NXT women's tag titles with Candice. That was a massive, like, I wouldn't exactly say reality check, but it was more of a realization moment where I'm like, wow, like, I used to train with Indy at the MCW Academy, and like, she has come all this way getting signed by WWE, and she's pushed herself hard enough to win a championship and get recognized. And like, this is someone who used to be like my peer, and now they're on the biggest scale possible, winning championships. And like, it's humbling's not the right word, but it's very good to see that, like, someone who, like, with the same kind of upbringing as me, like the same like starting point, has succeeded, and it kind of gives everyone else in Australia hope that, like, you can make it on the big scale if you try hard enough.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I'm sure, you know, Indy Hartwell was one of those people that was just 100% committed and driven, and this was her one goal, and that she just pursued it wholeheartedly.
Oh, she definitely was. Absolutely.
You know, and I think to get to that level, that's, you know, you have to do it. Like, I think to get to that level and be successful in any sport, you have to commit yourself 110%. And it's almost like a life of an athlete can also be a very selfish life to a lot of other people in their life, because they have to be so dedicated and regimented.
Yeah, there's a lot of sacrifice, especially when it comes to wrestling as well. You see a lot of people who just try to essentially like play wrestler and try to do it as like a hobby on the weekend. And like, they pretty much only do it just to brag to their friends, to be like, oh, this is what I do on weekends, I'm a wrestler. It's like, are you though? Like, you literally just go out there, you do your own, like, you do your thing, and then that's it. There's no hard work during the week. There's no like dedication to try to better yourself to like master your craft. And it goes without saying with anything in life, really, you get out what you put in. And wrestling is a perfect example of that. If you will reap the rewards if you put in the hard work and the dedication to a business like this. Because at the end of the day, it's exactly what it is. It's a business. It can't be treated as a hobby, because it's not going to work too well for you if you do it like that.
Oh, absolutely. And that's, it just goes to show, you know, you put the heart and you put the effort in, like anything in life, you can be successful, right? Like, at just that level of dedication and how bad that individual wants it, you know. So I think that, you know, there probably is quite a few guys that are, you know, probably weekend warriors that like to sort of wrestle on the weekends, but, you know, is that such a bad thing though? Like, I mean, I like, is like, if they're doing it as a hobby, there's guys that want to do it wholeheartedly, but guys that want to do it as a hobby, do you find that wrestling shouldn't be a hobby for some people?
There's a very fine line with that kind of stuff as well. Like, especially because it's not a full-time thing in Australia. It's not big enough to be like a career like it is in like the USA or UK or Mexico, for example. So in Australia, you can kind of get away with it more, with a little being like a weekend warrior, like you said. because it's pretty much, that's exactly how it is in Australia. It's just a weekend thing. So people can still have their 9 to 5s, like me, for example. Because wrestling once to twice a week isn't going to like pay bills or anything like that. So, but it's more people who are trying to get big and trying to blow themselves up, but they're not going about it the right way. They're not treating it like a proper professional business. That's the kind of stuff where it's like, you might more of a weekend warrior in that case as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
People just, if they want to get better at this, they just need to commit and commit and commit. Like everything involves kind of sacrifice if you want to be successful, and wrestling is no exception.
Yeah, and you seem like a guy who's very committed to this and very committed to the business. How often are you what's your training regiment plan? Like, are you training 4 days a week, for 6 days a week, or is this something that has happened for you? Any spare time you are training, or you're watching tape, or you're doing something wrestling related?
When I'm not training, I'm watching as much wrestling as I possibly can. In the terms of I just want to know more. I've been obsessed with wrestling since I was 9-10 years old. And old habits die hard. It hasn't changed for me yet. I just want to get as much knowledge in this thing as much as possible. But in terms of physical training regimen, it's gym 4 to 5 times a week. Trying to get myself down to the MCW Academy to train once a week as well. Also, I'm a coach at the academy too. So that's 2 to 3 times a week there, coaching the next crop of talent as well. So it's a pretty full on schedule. I'd probably say that my life is 35% my 9 to 5, another 65% is wrestling. So that just is I believe it's a testament to myself to how much I love this business and how much I want it.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's the thing. It's every waking moment you're working on getting better, and you're trying to get to that next level. And even training guys as well, man, to coach people. I think it's almost like in any sport, you can be a fantastic player or fantastic fighter or fantastic wrestler, but sometimes that doesn't necessarily transition over to being a coach. How did you find going from being, into a coaching role where you're actually teaching guys? Was it something that you felt quite natural in doing?
Yes and no. So when I got offered the spot to be a coach at the academy, I was very surprised because I am still one of the young kids, so to speak, in MCW. And myself and obviously my tag team partner, Jet Ruka, who's a coach as well, we were both this MCW Academy since day one. Gave as much as we could to that place and to that company. And we give and give and give. And obviously we've been rewarded in that sense as well. They've obviously seen something in us and be like, okay, you guys have got potential as coaches. So they just let us roll with it at the time. And I think it's definitely paying dividends at the moment. I hadn't done any kind of coaching or teaching for that matter like that in any aspect of life. So it was definitely a new experience for me. But I think it's definitely very rewarding it's me sharing my knowledge of something I'm incredibly passionate about. So it's less of a chore, less of a job, and more of like we mentioned before, a hobby. It's just, I enjoy doing this stuff. If I had to do it for free, then I absolutely would. It's just, I really enjoy sharing my knowledge with the next up and comers.
And what do you feel like is the thing that you're seeing coming through the door with a lot of young and up and comers? Do you see a lot of guys which do like yourself, huge wrestling fans, completely passionate about the business, a little bit, maybe, I don't want to say naive, but as you said, didn't understand fully what it was like, seeing these bright-eyed, bushy-tailed guys coming in? Do you see a lot of what you were when you started?
Yes, I can definitely say that that's the case. Everyone, as soon as they try to get into a wrestling school or want to become a wrestler, everything is it's almost like their dream comes true then and there. They'll I've seen a lot of people come in when they kind of train at a wrestling school. And just them seeing a wrestling ring up close for the first time, you could not wipe the look off of their face. They're just big eye, big smile. They're like, oh my God, this is a wrestling ring. This is amazing. They've essentially not exactly said that they've made it there, but it's like, this is the first step to achieving my dream. And it's definitely evident with a lot of them as well. And you can tell just by the work ethic of people as well, and the way they train, who like wants it more than others, and who, like myself, is just very driven inside and outside of a wrestling school, and who wants to make it and succeed and make a name for themselves in this business.
Do a lot of the guys that come in there, do they have some level of physical fitness, or do you see some guys that just come in there and you're like, dude, there's no way that you're going to be able to do this?
It's a very mixed bag, wrestling, and that's what I think is the beauty of it. Is there's no one like type of person who can be like, okay, this is like this stereotypical wrestler. You have to meet this criteria to do it. It's open to anyone, because wrestling is an incredibly inclusive business. I think it's like not even like physical capabilities or anything like that. If anyone, no matter what they like, what kind of like physical or mental like stability they are, if they put in the hard yards and they try to improve themselves, and they're obviously going to reap those kind of rewards.
Oh, so absolutely.
You see people from wrestling from like all walks of life. And that's the beauty of wrestling. It's just incredibly inclusive. And if people want to succeed, they're going to put in the hard yards and do exactly that.
Yeah, I mean, you're 100% right. You know, wrestling is one of those things where there's kind of like a spot for everybody. You know what I mean? Like from any walk of life, if you're prepared to put that work in, then, you know, you're going to see the result from it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, you mentioned as well that you watch a lot of wrestling as well, man. Like, what's the promotion or promotions that you're binge watching at the moment?
I wasn't exactly binging it, but up until COVID hit, I was keeping up to date regularly with PWG. I'm a very big super indie mark. I love that kind of stuff.
Same here, dude.
So even just going through like the archives and stuff as well. I got lent a few PWG DVDs by a mate back from like the 2014, 2015 PWG. And that was the kind of stuff where we're like, all right, this is awesome. Like the Reseda hall that they were in, iconic venue. And it's just a lot of those people that you see there have obviously made it big now in various promotions. And it's just how that started compared to how they are now as well. There's a lot of development in that sense. But just it's a different environment. It's an alternative to like your typical like WWE kind of stuff, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's just a different kind of taste, and that was pretty much all I was about. And like I mentioned, in about I think 2015, 2016, I got very hard into Ring of Honor. Started to try to watch some backlog of that. Watched a lot of Samoa Joe, Bryan Danielson, Nigel McGuinness, Kenta, and just trying to take bits and pieces of them as well, and just trying to improve my game in whether it be on a large or a small scale as best as I can.
Oh, 100%. You know, you mentioned some pretty impressive names there that you were studying up on, but you know, as far as like, you know, where you are now, like 5 years into the business, you know, currently coaching as well, you know, take COVID out of the question. Is international travel on your radar? Is that where you want to be able to go over to like Japan, the States, the UK, and you know, apply the craft on an international scale?
Well, the overall goal for me, like just even in life, my career aspiration is to make a living doing this. It doesn't matter what country it's in. Obviously, COVID has pretty much fucked that for us now.
Yeah.
But yeah, once the borders open up, once the world's essentially back to normal, wrestling full time is my career goal. And I think once, like we said, the borders open up and stuff, once I get a little bit more steam behind myself as well, I've only been doing this for 5 years. I've still got a long way to go, and I've got a long career ahead of myself. Fingers crossed that I don't get fucking hurt again. That's obviously the aspiration. I'm not really too fussed as to where I go. Preferably an English-speaking country would be like ideal, so I don't have to learn another language while I'm over there. Whether it be like the US, the UK, whatever. I just want to be able to get myself up to the level at the point where people can be like, all right, this guy is worth booking 4 to 5 times a week in wrestling shows, where it's not just a weekend thing in other countries. And I just want to try to wrestle as much as possible, get as much experience as possible while doing it, and have enough like funds to essentially pay my way through life.
Yeah. which I think it is. The plan, and you see the Australian scene with the talent that we have here now. Like there's almost like something, like you can feel like some excitement, like something's about to give here, like something has to happen. Where like I think that the scene will be in the next 5 to probably 10 years, we're going to see like Australians being able to live in Australia, perform at a high level on a national level here in Australia, and make a living at it full time. And I believe that once that happens, the talent is going to just increasingly get better and better.
Oh, definitely. I think Australia is on the cusp in that kind of sense. It's just it's not as big as, like, especially if you take like 5-10 years ago, it was a very rare thing to see Australian wrestling. Even before I got into the business, when I first started training, I had no idea how much wrestling was in Australia, let alone even just Melbourne to begin with. And the more and more promotions are popping up, the more work is out there for people. And it's like a business. There are jobs out there essentially, and they're growing and growing as the years go on. So I think there's no real like time frame to put on it, but I think it's only a matter of extended time before wrestling in Australia as a full-time job is a possibility.
Dude, I think that would, as I said, I see it very happening in the absolute near future. And, to see that talent now, it's going to be so very well deserving, from New South Wales to Melbourne to Perth to, Western Australia. There is a lot of talent all around this country. And, and now seeing promotions being on like Fight TV, and also on the independent IWTV as well. That's a huge platform and huge steps as well for Aussie wrestling to get recognized.
Yeah, definitely. It's like you mentioned, the IWTV, which DeathMatch DownUnder is now have a partnership with. That worldwide exposure is the next step into getting Australia into that next level of being up there with like the Americas and the UKs and the Mexicos of on that big grand scale of wrestling in the world. And hopefully that's the kind of thing that's going to draw more eyes to the product, to be like, oh, hey, Australian wrestling, this is cool. Like, let's invest some time into this. Let's see what this is all about. And when people, when COVID's a distant memory, where people can start to travel like freely throughout the world, people will want to start to come here to wrestle. It's good enough that we can go like to other countries to hone our craft. But once Australia can get to the point where people want to come to us, that's when we're taking a massive step in the right direction.
Oh, 100%. And, I've got friends of mine in the United States, and I was talking to one of my friends in Jersey who has been watching Deathmatch Down Under. And he said to me, he goes, bro, Deathmatch Down Under is like Game Changer Wrestling Australia. Like, it's, the style of wrestling, they're offering something for everybody, and the shows are on point. And he said, like, this is a guy who goes to every GCW event, had been to countless ring and everything like that, and been very close in the business, and saying like Deathmatch out Down Under is on a different level to like a lot of promotions worldwide. And I was saying, dude, I agree. And the IWTV is a huge platform for, and I think a lot of indie wrestling fans, one thing about them, and trust me, because I am one, I love finding new shit. And I love like sort of diving down the rabbit holes of that, going, oh, what's this promotion? Who's this wrestler? I haven't heard of this person before. Let me find out about this. Oh, this person wrestled this. You know what I mean? Like, and then you start learning more about different performers and different shows and different brands and companies. So I think it's going to be...
It's like a never-ending journey. Like everything just like stems, and it's like branches upon branches upon branches. And like you said, it's pretty much the perfect way to describe it. It's a rabbit hole. There's so much exposure for so many people and so many companies, and the possibilities and like the viewing is endless.
Oh, I absolutely agree. And it's, it just goes to show that, once this sort of starts coming, and, you'll start seeing, social media accounts and stuff like that starting to grow, because these guys will start following the performers and stuff like that. So I think it's going to be giving, everyone is going to be gaining from it, not just the promotion, but also the performers as well. But, last show, man, you wrestled Shazza McKenzie, who was a huge name in the Australian scene. How did you find, wrestling Shazza, man?
At first, daunting.
Yeah.
Seeing someone, seeing someone of that caliber and having a name for herself, not only in Australia but also in the United States as well. Wrestling for places like Shimmer, she's made appearances for both NXT and AEW. I don't really think that I broke it down to that level until like the day of the show, where I'm like, holy shit, I'm wrestling someone who's incredibly well traveled, and this is going to be like a massive learning experience for me. And the more and more I thought about it, the more and more excited / nervous I got about it. Saz is an absolute like wonder to work as well. She's very, very talented. The fact that she hasn't been picked up by any kind of company is criminal, if you ask me. A wealth of knowledge, a wealth of experience, and I definitely got a lot out of the match that we had at DeathMatch DownUnder.
Yeah, and were you happy with the match?
Oh, I was absolutely like stoked with the match.
And it was a great match. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you very much. It was also good to see, like, not only did I enjoy it from a personal perspective, but Shaz enjoyed it. She told me after the match that she was a big fan of the way that we worked together, and seeing the reviews once the show went live on IWTV. Everyone was saying, "Oh, a great match from Tyson and Shazza," and I think that's where the rewards came in. Where it's like, all right, cool. The stuff that we tried to portray ended up succeeding, and it was a very good feeling of internal gratitude there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you guys told a really amazing story in that match, and I think it was just really well executed. And as you said, Shaz is a well-traveled person. I'm not sure if she could even have a bad match, but to have one with yourself, who was just again another amazing performer, is to be able to put on a spectacular show. But coming up at the next DeathMatch DownUnder show on the 21st of May, you're actually going up against Chanel Phoenix. And there's a little bit of a stipulation for this match, right? Like, if this is winner goes on to another spot in the tournament.
Yes, so May 21st and May 22nd, DMD is putting on a doubleheader called the Juice is Worth the Squeeze. And they're going to be starting and finishing a 16-person tournament to crown their first ever DMDU heavyweight champion. And I say person because it's not only open to specifically males. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, we've got 4 females in this tournament, a lot of which are the favourites to win if the bracket is anything to go by. But yes, night 1, I am taking on Chanel Phoenix. And Chanel likes to say a lot of things about she wants to dismantle mediocrity, as is her hashtag online. Step 1 for me in this tournament is plain and simple to dismantle Chanel Phoenix. Take that one out of the books. Move on to either Tommy Knight or Gore in the second round. Beat them. Keep going and going and going until I get to that final. And I'm plain and simple, I'm taking that title home with me.
There you go. You sound very confident in winning the tournament, man. We definitely wish you luck in that. But I think the actual tournament style and the tournament matchups that I've been looking over, it looks like it's going to be a couple of the most stacked shows in the country this year, I believe. Like, it's really like you guys have got a lot of great talent performing on those shows. And what about with MCW? When's the next time people are going to be able to see you performing with those guys?
Funny enough, MCW is on tomorrow night at the Thornbury Theatre for New Horizons. Sold out, unfortunately, but you can still catch it on MCW On Demand in, I don't know when, but after the show, presumably. I'll be taking on Rocky Monero, seasoned vet coming out of Adelaide. And I'm just looking forward to finally shutting his mouth once and for all. So that'll be good fun.
There you go. I wanted to ask you your tag team name, the Mile High Club. How did you and Jet come up with that name? Like, I know what the Mile High Club is, but how does that incorporate into the wrestling side of things?
So Jet and I both started as high flyers because we're both flippy do boys who can do flippy do shit. And then we never had a tag team name. We kept brainstorming, but we couldn't think of anything that really stuck, that really like personified us. So oh God, what year was it? It was like, it's like 2018. I think I put up a Instagram post of us two, and as a joke, I just said I named this tag team. It was kind of like people can get their little jabs in, but at the same time, give us a fucking name. We don't have one yet. And then someone mentioned the Mile High Club, and I told Jet, I'm like, hey, what do you think about this? He's like, yeah, like, I like it. And we pretty much just it was probably the one name we actually agreed on. And we thought, like, it's a nice little innuendo as well. People know what it means. And we want to try to play off of that without being too dickheadish, so to speak.
Yeah.
So we essentially just rolled with it. We haven't had anyone really, like, mention it or ask about the name origin before. So it was nice to actually kind of explain it for once.
No, absolutely. Because I was like, I was interested in seeing that because one of the questions or statements that Kyle Eders made here was Mile High Club versus Aussie Open needs to happen one day. That would be quite the match as well, you know. Like, and you know, on that point, what matches for you out there that you really, really wanted to have in 2021?
Well, seeing as we're pretty much stuck in Australia, it's good to try to narrow it down to just Australian talent. As Kyle just mentioned, Aussie Open have been an absolutely great match. I'm a massive fan of both Mark and Kyle's work over in PWA, and even over in the when they had their stint in the UK. They're definitely on the list of wanting to work with. The Velocities are another team that I would love to get in the ring with again. I feel like we've got a lot of untapped potential working with those boys. Worked the rest of them before on MCW, so I would love to do it again, wherever or whenever it may be. And in terms of single stuff, I'm just trying to think of some names now. The man who baptized Jet and I in MCW, Robbie Eagles, it'd be great to go one-on-one with him. I've always been hanging out for a one-on-one match with Adam Brooks, so that is definitely still on the bucket list. The possibilities are endless. The Brat Pack as well, MCW Tag Team Champions. With Jet and I would love to take the titles off of them and prove our point. I'm just going to be able to keep naming names for just hours on end. So basically, I just want to wrestle everyone. Basically, just bring it.
There you go. For now, I definitely think there's, you know, the matches that you announced there's going to be a lot to sort of go by. But as far as like doing singles and tag team, like, do you have a preference over which you prefer?
Not particularly. Both have their pros and their cons. As a singles wrestler, you get more of your shit in, so that's kind of a no-brainer. But on the other hand, as a tag wrestler, you have to do less. So it's less to like kind of remember. It's less to worry about physically speaking. You're not going to get as tired as quickly. And wrestling is a very tiring thing, trust me. A lot of people I know, including myself, get gassed on our entrances. So,
well, that's the thing. Yeah, maybe a bit more cardio before the entrance.
Yeah, exactly.
But you know, and I definitely think, you know, with everything that you've got going on there in Melbourne, you know, with the training of the young up and coming talent, the tag team with Mile High Club, and also your singles run as well. You know, you're definitely going to be keeping yourself busy this year. But look, I just want to be very you know, obviously careful of your time giving us up on a Friday night. But you know, one thing I want to ask is, you know, where do you want to actually be, say, in the next 5 years?
In the next 5 years, ideally, given that the situations work in our favor with the whole COVID and the border closures.
Let's take COVID out of the picture. Say tomorrow COVID clears up. Yeah.
In the next 5 years, I would like to be on the verge or in the process of making a living wrestling overseas. I don't think it's going to happen in Australia within the next 5 years. If it does, awesome. But I think the market in terms of trying to improve myself is out in the wider world. So the main goal, I think, whether it be 5 years or 10 years, I just want to be able to make a living doing this.
Yeah, I completely can understand where you're coming from. But look, guys, it is time for the game of the evening. It is 60 seconds with Piers. We have briefed Tyson about this. Tyson, how it's going to work is I'm going to fire rapid questions at you. You've got 60 seconds to answer them. Mate, when you're ready, give me Iggy, and we'll get started.
All right, let's do it. Fire away.
Favorite song to sing in the car?
Oh, shit. Bohemian Rhapsody.
Name a
All
gross
parts.
meal combo. Name a gross meal combo you love that no one else does.
Anything with Parmesan cheese. Everyone hates Parmesan cheese for some reason.
Home barbecues or nightclubs?
Home barbecues.
Which Chris is hotter, Hemsworth, Evans, or Pratt?
I'm a big mark for Chris Pratt, so we're going to have to go with him.
How many cruises have you been on?
Say that again, you broke up.
How many cruises have you been on?
0.
If you couldn't wrestle, what other career would you do?
Probably PE teacher.
If you were given $1 million to start a business, what would it be?
Wrestling, I guess.
Fair enough. Okay, we got a couple more to go. If you could ask Vince McMahon one question, what would it be?
What's going on with you, man? What are you?
What's your biggest fear?
Nothing I really thought about. Sporadically re-injuring myself to the same degree.
The time that has been 60 seconds with Piers. Tyson, well done. Tyson, where can everyone find you? Where can everyone go and support you and buy merch as well, bud?
So my socials on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter are at FeverPitchTB. And you can get my merch at wrestlermerch.com. Can't remember the / or any of that bullshit. Just look for Tyson Baxter in the Victorian section. You'll see me there. And I will be getting a restock on some shirts as well in physical form. So any show that I am a part of, we'll be selling t-shirts there.
Tyson, thank you very much for being a guest on Shooting the Shit Uncensored and giving up your time on a Friday night. It's much this on Twitch, and you'd like to support the MWA podcast channel, make sure that you that subscribe button. Every little bit it helps us grow our brand a little bit more. So make sure you click that subscribe button. This out. And, I'll just get myself all tongue twisted. Make sure to hit that subscribe button on YouTube. But guys, also tomorrow, make sure you tune in at 10 a.m. Australian time, which is going to be 8 p.m. USA Eastern time, as the ECW original, the Kingpin, has his show Killing the Business. I will be co-hosting with the Kingpin, and we're going to be talking with Homicide tomorrow. So make sure you tune in for that one. Guys, make sure you follow Tyson Baxter on Twitter, on Instagram, and on Facebook, whatever social media you got. If you got all three, go follow him. And guys, until next time, take it easy. Peace.